Every 40 seconds, someone in the world dies by suicide. Marcus was going to be one of those statistics. He had the plan, the location, the letters written. But something happened on that bridge that he never expected. Before we dive in, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? Because this story is going to hit different no matter where you are. And it might just save a life. His name was Marcus, and if you'd seen him that Tuesday morning, you wouldn't have guessed anything was wrong. He wore a pressed shirt, drove a decent car, smiled at the security guard. But here's what nobody knew. Marcus had already written his goodbye letters. They sat in his glove compartment, sealed in white envelopes. He'd decided that by sunset he'd be gone. The wait had become too much. Let me take you back 6 months earlier. Marcus had lost his job at the consulting firm where he'd worked for 8 years. Not because he wasn't good, he was excellent actually. The company was downsizing, and his entire department got wiped out in one afternoon meeting. He remembered walking to his car with a cardboard box, feeling like the ground had opened beneath him. Everything he'd built suddenly felt like sand slipping through his fingers. Then his wife Sarah left. She said she couldn't handle the stress anymore, couldn't watch him spiral. Marcus didn't blame her really. He'd become someone he didn't recognize, short-tempered, distant, hollow. She took their daughter Emma, just 7 years old with gap teeth and his same laugh. The apartment felt like a tomb after they moved out. The silence was the worst part. It screamed at him every single night. His savings evaporated faster than he'd imagined possible. Rent, child support, medical bills from his father's hospital stay. Marcus applied to 73 jobs in 3 months. 73. He got 4 interviews and 0 offers. Each rejection email felt like a punch to the chest. He started believing what that voice in his head kept whispering, "You're worthless. You failed everyone. They'd be better off without you." Think about it this way, depression doesn't announce itself with trumpets. It's subtle, creeping in like fog until you can't see your hand in front of your face. Marcus stopped calling friends back. Stopped going to church. Food tasted like cardboard, so he barely ate. He'd sit on his couch for hours, staring at nothing, trapped in a prison made entirely of his own thoughts. It's terrifying how convincing darkness can be. That Tuesday morning started like any other awful day. Marcus woke up at 5:47 a.m. without an alarm, heart already racing with anxiety. He made coffee he wouldn't drink, showered on autopilot. But today was different because he'd made a decision. The uncertainty, the suffocating shame, the endless pain, it would all end. He'd chosen the bridge near the industrial district. Quiet. Empty. Nobody would stop him there. He drove slowly, almost ceremonially, to what he believed would be his final destination. The morning traffic was light. He watched people in other cars, drinking coffee, talking on phones, living their ordinary lives. Did they know how lucky they were to just exist without this crushing weight? He envied them so deeply it made his chest ache. The bridge came into view, concrete and cold against the gray sky. Marcus parked his car and sat there for 20 minutes. His hands shook. Part of him, some tiny, stubborn part, kept hoping his phone would ring. That Sarah would call, that a job offer would come through, that something, anything would give him a reason to stay. But the phone stayed silent. He picked up the envelopes from the glove compartment, pressed them against his chest, and got out of the car. The wind hit him immediately, cold and sharp. He walked to the railing, gripping the rough concrete. Below, the river moved dark and swift. This was it. All he had to do was climb over. 3 seconds of courage and the pain would stop. He closed his eyes, took a breath, and lifted his leg. Then he heard it, a voice clear as daylight saying, "Don't do it, brother." Marcus spun around, heart hammering. An old man stood about 10 feet away, hands in the pockets of a worn jacket. He had gray hair, kind eyes, and this strange calm presence. "I'm sorry, what?" Marcus stammered. The man stepped closer slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. "I said don't do it. Whatever you're carrying, it's not worth your life. I promise you that." Marcus felt tears spring to his eyes instantly. "You don't understand," Marcus said, voice breaking. "I've got nothing left. I've lost everything. My family, my job, my purpose. I'm just a burden now. Everyone would be better off if I disappeared." The old man nodded like he'd heard this before. "I hear you. I really do. But that voice lying to you? It's wrong. Dead wrong. Can I tell you something before you make this decision?" Marcus didn't answer, but he didn't leave either. The old man leaned against the railing beside him, casual as if they were watching a sunset, not a potential suicide. 32 years ago, I stood exactly where you're standing right now," he began. "Different bridge, same despair. I'd lost my wife to cancer, lost my business, lost my faith. I was absolutely certain that death was my only option. Here's what I mean about timing. Marcus felt his breath catch. The stranger understood. Not in a theoretical, sympathetic way, but in a bone-deep, lived-through-it way. What happened? Marcus whispered. The old man smiled softly. A kid rode by on a bicycle, crashed right there on the sidewalk, started crying. I went to help him, and in those 5 minutes of distraction, something shifted. Just enough for me to get through that day. That's it? Marcus asked, almost angry. A kid on a bike saved you? The old man shook his head. No, son. God saved me. He used a kid on a bike, but it was him. And every day after that, he kept saving me. Some days through people, some days through a sunrise, some days through nothing but stubborn grace. I eventually rebuilt my life. Got remarried. Started a small ministry. None of that would exist if I jumped. Marcus felt something crack open in his chest. But I've prayed, he said desperately. I've begged God for help, and he's been silent. Completely silent. Where was he when I was losing everything? Where is he now? The old man's eyes filled with tears. He's here, Marcus. Standing right in front of you. I didn't come here by accident. I felt pulled to drive this way today, no idea why. Now I know. The use of his name jolted Marcus. How do you know my name? The old man gestured to the envelopes Marcus still clutched. One had slipped partially open, showing Dear Sarah and Emma, written on the letter inside. Marcus's name was signed at the bottom, visible through the paper. I can read, son. But more than that, I know what it's like to be where you are. And I'm telling you, you're about to make a permanent decision about temporary problems. Temporary? Marcus laughed bitterly. You think this is temporary? I'm broke, alone, and completely broken. There's no coming back from this. The old man straightened up. That's where you're wrong. Dead wrong. I'm living proof that you can come back from the absolute bottom. But you have to choose to stay. You have to give God room to work. He can't resurrect what you've destroyed by your own hand. You feel? Marcus looked back at the river, then at this stranger who'd appeared from nowhere. The coincidence felt too big to ignore. Or maybe it wasn't coincidence at all. I don't know if I can do this, he admitted quietly. I don't know if I'm strong enough to keep going. The old man put a hand on his shoulder, firm and grounding. You're not doing it alone. That's the whole point. You can't see the path forward, but God can. They stood there together for what felt like hours but was probably 15 minutes. The old man, whose name was James, convinced Marcus to walk with him to a nearby diner. You need coffee and food, James said. When's the last time you actually ate? Marcus couldn't remember. At the diner, over eggs and toast Marcus couldn't taste, James shared his phone number, the address of his church, and most importantly, his presence. He didn't offer easy answers or prosperity gospel nonsense. James acknowledged that life was brutally hard sometimes, that God's timing made zero sense from a human perspective, that some valleys were darker than others. But he also insisted with absolute conviction that Marcus's story wasn't over. This chapter is awful, James said, but it's not the final chapter. You have to trust me on this. Or better yet, trust God. Even if you can't feel him right now, he hasn't moved. Marcus went home that night instead of to the bridge. He couldn't explain why exactly, except that something had shifted. Not fixed, the problems were all still there. But shifted. He felt the tiniest flicker of possibility where before there'd been only darkness. He called James the next day, then the day after. James became an anchor, checking in constantly, praying with him, occasionally showing up with groceries or just to sit in silence together. 3 weeks later, something remarkable happened. Marcus got a call from a former colleague who'd started his own company. They needed someone with Marcus's exact skill set. The salary was lower than before, but it was something. It was hope with a paycheck. Marcus cried when he hung up the phone. Not because the problem was solved completely, but because it was proof that forward motion was possible after all. Here's what nobody tells you about divine intervention. It's rarely dramatic lightning bolts. Usually it's quiet. It's a stranger appearing at the right moment. It's a phone call 3 weeks late that still arrives exactly on time. It's the strength to wake up one more day when you were certain you couldn't. God intervenes in whispers as often as he does in shouts. Marcus was learning this in real time, one tiny step forward at a time. 6 months after that bridge encounter, Marcus had his daughter Emma for the weekend. They were making pancakes together when she said, "Daddy, you seem happier now." Marcus had to turn away to hide his tears. Happier felt like too big a word, but less destroyed? Definitely. He'd started therapy, joined James's church community, and slowly began believing he might deserve to exist after all. The depression hadn't vanished completely, but it no longer ran the show. Think about it this way, Marcus's story could have ended on that bridge. It almost did. But because one person listened to a nudge, because one man decided to care about a stranger, everything changed. James later told Marcus he'd been feeling restless that morning, kept sensing he needed to drive a different route to the hardware store. He almost ignored it. Almost. But he didn't, and 2 lives were forever altered because of it. A year after the bridge, Marcus stood in front of James's small church congregation and shared his testimony. His voice shook, but he got through it. He talked about the darkness, the hopelessness, the letters he'd almost made permanent. He talked about James appearing like an angel in a worn jacket. He talked about learning that God's timing is infuriating until you're on the other side of it, and then it makes perfect, devastating sense. Sarah started letting Emma stay weekends regularly. She even met Marcus for coffee once, said he seemed different. Lighter, she called it. They weren't getting back together, that ship had sailed, but they could co-parent kindly now. Marcus built a new life from the rubble of the old one. Different, smaller in some ways, but also more authentic. He knew himself now, including the broken parts, and that knowledge was its own kind of freedom. Marcus still has hard days. Depression doesn't disappear completely just because you have one miraculous intervention. But he has tools now: therapy, medication, community, faith that's been tested and survived. And he has a purpose. He volunteers with James's ministry now, reaching out to others standing on their own bridges, literally or metaphorically. He gets to be for someone else what James was for him. Proof that you can survive what feels unsurvivable. So here's what I want you to take from this. If you're reading this and you're in darkness right now, if you're contemplating an ending, please hear me. Your story isn't over. The pain you're feeling is real and valid, but it's not permanent, and it's not the truth about your worth. God hasn't forgotten you. Help might look like a stranger on a bridge or a friend's text message or a sudden opportunity. Hold on one more day, then one more after that. You were born for more than this moment. And somewhere, someone desperately needs the you that survives this. Don't rob the world of that. Please.